What's your biggest fear?
What is my biggest fear?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a good damn question. Um, so I wouldn't say I have a phobia. I wouldn't say I have one of the. I mean, I know it's kind of like the definition of a fear is a phobia,
Yeah.
but if I had to say what my biggest fear is, I have a fear of like massive heights.
Interesting. I never knew that. I guess I don't really fly with you often.
Well, see, flights is not what I'm scared of. It's just being up on very tall areas. Because one time, we were up at like Niagara Falls area,
Okay.
and they have this thing there where as you're walking across a glass like bridge kinda,
Oh.
the glass will pretend to like temper or break.
That's
And I was
horrible.
yeah, I was at like the ripe old age of like 8 or 9,
What?
and my dad took me up
Of
there
course you did.
for like a family vacation, and he made me do that. And ever since then, I've just kind of had like a fear of heights because I remember literally looking down, and it's
Oh
just
my
nothing but
gosh.
valley. It's just nothing but valley. Of probably like I wouldn't say thousands of feet below me, but like it was a good damn like you're dying if you drop from there.
Okay, Muir. Now pretend to break the bridge.
I would
No.
also say I have a somewhat fear of spiders, but
Mm.
that's more or less like the big spiders in like fucking Australia and shit, like the big fucking ones.
Yeah, you
Like
need.
regular little house spiders, I don't really care for. Like I can live with them. It's just like the big motherfuckers. I'm like, nah.
Well, dude, when we were in 5th grade, do you remember when our one teacher put on Australia's Most Deadly? Were you there for that?
Yeah,
Oh my
no,
gosh,
I
yeah.
I don't remember. I wasn't there for that, but I do remember you guys talking about it at lunch.
Bro, that was horrid. That was the day I discovered I did not want to go to Australia. Well, like there was a
Let
similar
me
thing.
let me rebuttal this to you, Lucas. What is your biggest fear?
Well, I thought you were talking about phobias. I thought you were gonna talk about cheese. I thought you were scared of cheese.
No,
Um,
no, I'm just not a fan of
strong
like
opinion.
American cheese.
Yeah, yeah. American, that's the worst cheese. My biggest fear is being alone and not by choice. There's a difference between loneliness and independence, and I feel like loneliness is crippling. So I think that says a
I
lot about
can
me.
I can definitely agree with that. That's not a bad fear, Lucas. It's not a bad fear at all.
Not bad at all. Pretty reasonable. I think everyone sort of has that internally.
Oh yeah,
Um,
definitely.
like fear of heights. My brother, he hates heights as well. I don't know where he got it from, but we went to this place. It was like a mile high gorge. It was out in
Yeah.
Colorado. It wasn't as bad. It wasn't glass. I don't know why it was glass for you. That's like some Star Wars type beat. But for us, it was just a wooden bridge. It was wide enough for a truck to go across, but still, you're just walking across. Imagine a boardwalk on the beach but over just a giant gorge. And you're looking down, it's like, oh, there's the Durango
Oh.
train line. Hello.
Yeah, nah, that would I wouldn't be freaked out as much, but like as I'd be walking, I'd be like planting my foot down hard, seeing like if it actually give or not.
No, literally. And the trucks, they had these trucks going by. So the bridge was like, "Tut, tut, 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 tut," tut," and it would
Yeah.
shake. And you would be like, okay, the only thing that's keeping me alive right now are these chains. They're strong chains, but still, I don't know if I trust it. But no, yeah. This week we're going to be talking about a movie that's all about facing your fears. A movie where you sort of have to
Absolutely.
confront your deepest, most internal fears: fear of yourself, fear of nature, fear of humans. Let's be real. Uh,
Fear of death.
Fear of the supernatural. This whole thing's just about fear. It's the 1997 Studio Ghibli film Princess Mononoke. Marsh, what do you think about this movie?
This movie, honestly, going in zero expectations, really knocked it out of the ballpark for me. For this being a 19, what do you say, 97?
Yeah, same
Then
year as Titanic.
this was a Japanese made film, as far as what I'm aware, right?
Yeah.
It looks heavily, yeah, it looks heavily like early like Pokemon, like the animated TV show kind of animation. Like it's crazy that they still stuck with that, like going into that show,
Yeah,
as far as
same
that type of
era.
animation goes. I thought the character development was really like well done and well placed compared to most of the movies that we've watched. I don't feel like any scenes were honestly dragged out too far,
True.
which was a very nice breath of fresh air. Except for Toy Story 3. Toy Story 3 never really had like a dragging moment either.
It just kept going
But
and going and going. Yeah.
I would say that like the sense of kind of like mythology of like all these different animal gods really kind of had me like wrapped into it a little bit better. As far as like the main plot goes of the main character dealing with this like deadly poison that can eventually kill him and make him into a demon god, like how we saw the original Boar God in like the first 10 minutes of the film. I thought that was a really good plot point
Like
for at least like
fantastic.
him having to face his final fear of death and then having to come back something even worse that can just tear apart wasteland upon wasteland.
It's horrifying. It's kind of like The Walking Dead in a way.
I'd say it's worse than The Walking Dead because at least The Walking Dead, the nature stays alive.
That's
In
true.
this, any demon god literally just makes a path of just straight death and chaos.
Yeah.
As far as the main villain went, I thought that she was portrayed really well with how she kind of had like this cocky, smug, oh, I can do what I want type of deal. And personally, this movie really, as I said, knocked it out of the park for me. What do you think about this movie, Lucas?
I was a fan of it. I'm kind of bummed out. I feel like the demon stuff was sort of overshadowed in the second half. There is a scene, for context for the viewers, Ashitaka is the name of the main character. Good luck, that's the only name I remember. It's been like days since I've seen this. Ashitaka fights off this demon that's possessed a boar, and the boar slashes his arm, and he gets this infection. And for the first like hour or so in this movie, he's going on this quest to sort of bring nature together. He gets, if I remember correctly, he gets expelled from the village that he's originally in. He goes to this other village, which is sort of more industrialized. They are a colony
Yeah.
that discovers gunpowder. They discover steam power, and they're really advancing. And as a result, they're destroying nature. So Ashitaka's whole purpose in this film is to somehow find a way to ally the forces, the spirits of nature, if you will, with the greedy spirits of humanity. And so I like that a lot. I feel like conceptually it was very strong. The main issue I had with this film was there was sort of a lack of character in the second half. The second half was, it was, it's a lot of
I can
battling.
agree with that.
There are moments, which is interesting because the second half does have moments of quietness. There's a moment where there's a woman, the Princess Mononoke, the titular character. Her name's San, if I'm pronouncing that right. San,
Yes, you are.
her, she was a human once whose spirit was sort of possessed by these wolf spirits, and they have adopted her as their own daughter. And now San's whole thing is to take down humans with the wolves. Other creatures aren't really a big fan of that. And she and Ashitaka sort of have this come into terms of each other, sort of understanding who they are. There's obviously a little bit of romantic intent there. I mean, this dude, his riz is off the charts. He's like, "You are the most beautiful creature I've ever seen." Like, bro, if I said that at
Uh,
like, if I said
yeah, yeah, yeah.
when he
You're
says it, it's okay. But
you're
when I
getting a
say it at
beer
Sheets,
splashed in your face at the bar.
no, yeah, if it was like 3 a.m. at Champs, that ain't happening because Champs isn't open at 3 a.m. They close at 2. So, um, I feel like the external plot sort of takes over the second half, where the villain, the antagonist, her name is Lady Aboshi. She and this guy, his name is Jigo, Jigbo, I think that's how it's pronounced. Uh, Jigabo and Aboshi go out of their way to kill the deer god. The deer god is sort of this night walker spirit that is sort of like the force of all nature. They want to steal his head for pride, arrogance, to return to whatever emperor they report to. And, they succeed in that battle. And there's like a 15-minute sequence. The film closes out where it is just Ashitaka and San running back to like gather the humans of the camp to rally together and return the head, get rid of Aboshi and Jikabo's selfishness to restore the harmony of nature. And they do that. It's a very storybook ending, very fantasy based, pretty much like upholds all expectations you would have, but that demon subplot doesn't really matter in the second half, and I was sort of disappointed. I did not want to see Ashitaka die and get possessed, but I was hoping that they were bringing that up every 5 minutes in the first half, and I felt like that momentum was sort of lost once we got into the deer god conflict.
Yeah, it definitely fell off a cliff in my opinion. I completely agree with that. Like, we could have at least seen like a little bit more, like him kind of like getting possessed more by the parasite or infection, whatever you want to call it.
Agreed.
And like, if they would have at least dove into it a little bit to where like he almost got possessed and then he kind of got like taken back into reality, I feel like that would have definitely helped the first half, like leading into second half a lot more.
That'd
But
be
as we know,
interesting.
they didn't.
I'd be very interested to see a sequence like that because that would have been cool. Sort of like then you could feel even more terror when the boar gets possessed because then we know what he's
Exactly.
going through. That poor boar.
That boar did fight valiantly.
No, he
I will
did.
give him that.
He did his best. I feel like the main critique I've always had with anime, like why I've never enjoyed it, is because it looks cheap. This is not cheap. I feel like the main thing is more television budgets, the way the style is, it embraces the
And also the
limitations.
time of era.
Yeah, that's true. But something like this, where it's got a theatrical budget, the style is gorgeous. I don't know if
Oh yeah, the
I'm
animation is very fucking crisp. The only real complaint I had with the animation was how like the background area was just kind of like still frames, and then they just added the characters in.
that's true.
That was my only like kind of complaint with it, but they made it work well enough with the clouds moving, like the wind actually kind of like blowing the grass and stuff, to where I didn't really have as much as a complaint as if everything was just still frame.
Oh my gosh, yeah. You have that wolf sequence the first time we see the wolves. It's
Yeah,
so
that was
fast.
fucking good.
Oh, it was so good. I feel like this would make a really good video game. I don't think there's a video game
It would.
adaptation. This would have been
It
so
so
good.
would.
There's your chance, Sony. If you're listening to this, I would expect
Or
50%.
Nintendo.
Or Nintendo, yeah. I think aren't they releasing a Switch 2 next year? Is that the word I've been hearing?
Yes, they are.
Is it going to be like the Wii U? Because the Switch is the third highest selling console in video game history. So I'd be curious to see how they could top
Yeah,
that.
behind the PS2 and no, the PS3 and the PS4, I think, right? Yeah.
No, the PS. I was looking at this earlier today. The PS2 and the Nintendo DS.
I'm actually surprised by that because the PS3 hold that number one slot for a long time. I didn't even know it got dethroned.
Yeah. Is that your favorite? What's your favorite console?
That is a tough fucking question, Lucas. Personally, if we're going nostalgia route, I'd have to say the Wii.
Ooh, that's a good pick. I like the Wii. That's
If
a
we're
good pick.
if we're going nostalgia route, I have to go the Wii because I played on a Wii I had for fucking years before I had internet.
Yeah. These are similar.
Personally, my most favorite console that I've had, at least like as far as like an overall experience goes, nostalgia, not biased, uh, I'd probably have to say the Xbox One, just because I had my most memories on that console with my friends and on video games.
No, yeah, same here. I never really gamed. I'm not much of a gamer, but I got into it in high school because I just wanted to hang out with my friends. And the Xbox
Yeah,
was a good
exactly.
thing. I
It's
feel
a great way to bond with your friends, especially when you're playing a game that, like, you need to be kind of quote unquote dialed in for.
gotta be locked in. Get this guy locked in.
Yeah,
I'm a fan of the GameCube. I've played the GameCube before, and I don't know if I owned one. I feel like that'd be the one I'd have the most throw for because
very wonky controller, though, I will tell you that.
exactly, like the controller's so weird. Everything about it's just fun. I love it. It's just so creative. Um, but yeah, what do you think of the ending of this film?
I thought the ending was perfect, in my opinion. I felt like, as you said, very like fantasy storybook ending. The hero finally gets his way in the end. The antagonist, who's Misaboshi, I believe, is that who it is?
Ashitaka.
No, 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 no,
Oh,
the
the
villain, not
antagonist. That's right, Eboshi. Yeah, Lady Eboshi.
yeah, Lady Eboshi. I feel like she, kind of got like the smug, like, yeah, you were right kind of thing, which I really loved. I was glad to see that the two main characters, Princess Mononoke or San and Akatashi, kind of had like that, as you said, perfect storybook ending. Uh, the whole Dear God sequence towards the end really had me on the edge of my seat because I was like, are they actually gonna get engulfed by this fucking thing, or are they gonna be able to like get out of this by giving him back his fucking head?
That's a good sign for tension. It's a really good sign.
And personally, just the amount of like realization I had with this movie on how it's kind of like, yeah, as you said in the beginning, like facing your fear, facing different trials that you'll go through in life. I feel like it really like nailed that to a T, in my opinion.
Absolutely. My one friend, my roommate Gabe, he really likes this movie because of the environmentalist
Really, shout
themes.
out Gabe, by the way.
Yeah, shout out Gabe. He loves the environmentalist message of it. He thinks it really holds up and it's not so overt. It's not in your face. It just kind of like gets the point across.
Yeah, definitely.
What
What
do
did
you
you think of the ending of this movie, Lucas?
It was all right. I liked it.
It was all
I
right.
was glad. Part of me, I guess it's good that I wanted to see Ashitaka and San get together. I really wanted to see, these two live happily ever after, whatever. But I probably would have complained if they did get together, and I would have been like, they should have kept them apart. So it did what I wanted it to do. It's nothing groundbreaking because I wasn't as invested in the climax. I thought the climax was good, but it wasn't the most harrowing thing. I had a strong hunch that it was going to end out all right, considering just how many bits of optimism that the protagonist portrayed. I don't know what kind of film this would be if it had a negative ending, because Ashitaka is sort of like Luke Skywalker in that he represents light. The
Yeah, it
light.
represents light and hope.
So I wasn't concerned because I had a feeling I pretty much knew where the story was gonna go and it did what I expected. But it's still well written. It does what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
What do you rate it?
What do I rate it? Personally, I give this film a 4.
Yeah.
I feel like some story plot points, like as you brought up, could be done a little better. Animation, personally, for the time being, this is some of the best work they probably could have done with the technology they had at the time. I think the main protagonist, Akatashi, really sought out and well driven character. Personally, really liked his elk that he had. I don't know.
Shout out
I just kind of
Zakul.
fucked with him the entire film. He was just a cool guy,
Shout out
just a chill
Zakul.
guy, as some losers would say in today's day and age. Where do
Give
you
it.
rate this film, Lucas?
I would give this film a 3.5 out of 5 because I wasn't as personally invested in Ashitaka's story. I didn't feel like I was really immersed. He felt a little too storybookish to me, where okay, this is the
I can
hero's
see
hero.
that.
Yeah, this is the hero's hero. So it does everything right. It's well made. In the last however many days it's been since I've seen this film, it hasn't stuck with me the way that other films have, even like just
Yeah,
watching these movies. And so I think that's a sign that 3.5, it's a good movie. I recommend checking it out, but it's not one of the greatest movies I've ever seen.
I can agree with that statement. I so can. I can so agree with that statement.
Excellent.
Where
So
do we put this movie on the list?
on the list, the current ranking is Akiru, The Apartment, Singing in the Rain, Return of the Jedi, Lawrence of Arabia, and Toy Story 3. What do you think? You like this film a lot. Where do you want to put it?
I'm cool with putting this below Return of the Jedi.
Whoa. I was not expecting that. Really? I feel like it's better than Return of the Jedi. I feel like the character.
Really? See, that
Yeah.
kind of surprises me because you gave Return of the Jedi a better rating than you did
No,
this film.
I rated it. It's the same rating, 3.5.
Oh, really? Wow. All right. It shows you how much I actually watched the episodes.
But yeah, I feel like Return of the Jedi, the action scenes in that aren't nearly as compelling, aren't nearly as interesting. The character stuff is good, but within the context of its own medium, the only reason why Return of the Jedi's character stuff is good is because of the previous movies. Princess Mononoke did not have anything to prove. The character development in this movie is when it's actually there, it's really good, and I feel like they're comparable in terms of the quantity, but I feel like Princess Mononoke has a stronger case than Return of the
And
Jedi.
it's also a little bit shorter of a film, so it is like less that you have to pay attention to. And obviously, you don't have to watch 2 movies that came out before it to understand where this movie is as far as the plot points go.
And there's no Ewoks. We're in the woods, and you have the coolest creatures. Those little guys, I don't even remember what they're called. Like the little, they're like a
Yeah,
foot
yeah, yeah,
tall.
yeah. They're rattling in like the
Oh
woods and
my
shit.
gosh, they're so cool. Or like the other spirits in the woods, that the ones, the gray ones. I forget what they're supposed to be. So
The
cool.
gray ones and
Like
those
they're
were
the dark
those were
ones.
apes, weren't they?
They were apes. The apes. Oh, I love the apes. So much cooler than Return of the Jedi. Return of the Jedi is camp. It's cheese compared to this. Um, I
All right, well, I'm cool with putting this over it if you would want to, kind of like meet in the middle.
Yeah, let's put it between Return of the Jedi and Lawrence of Arabia.
All right, well, I think that's all we got for this week, ain't it?
Next week we will be covering the Stanley Kubrick classic Doctor Strangelove, or How I Learned to Stop Worrying and Love the Bomb. Sounds relevant.
And for some shameless plugging, if you guys want to see when we are recording and or when episodes might come out, you can go follow us on Instagram at Roll Credits. You can also go follow Lucas's YouTube and Spotify at Lucas Hydock on either platform to go listen to our podcast. And if you'd like to help me out, go follow me at slarshbonez, twitch.tv.
We'll see you next week.